Good evening, everybody. So my name is Xavier Abrioux, and I'm the director of the middle school, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here tonight. This is an event that we have never had before, so you're a bit of a guinea pig in that regard, because I have sort of thrown together a number of things that often get asked right before the year starts, or as the year gets started over the course of the years. And I'm getting a little bit old, and it takes a little bit of time sometimes for things to sink in. But really, I thought last year, you know what? Let's try something a little bit different at the start of this year. Hi, come on in, please. There are some more seats that are here, and even if you want to sort of just sit in the first row that has been roped off, please go ahead and do that. I just thought it would be easier with the number of people that we expected to kind of sit closer here, a better view of the screen, and also just a little bit of a better atmosphere. So welcome. So this is something that has been in the planning stages for a little bit of time. And so from a humongous list of things that as I was going through in my head, all right, as a new parent to the middle school, what are some of the things that I would want to know about? I've kind of taken that, whittled it down to, I think, only 14 things. And truth be told, some of them are kind of A and B within that. And I know there's some things that I've left off. I know there may be some things which don't necessarily need to be on this list. But these are things that I thought as a new parent you would probably be most interested in knowing. As we go through this, if there are, we'll stop every so often just to see if there are any kind of quick questions on those points. And I'd be very happy to answer any questions on that. I won't wait till the very end, because then it'll kind of be all over the place. But if there are a couple of questions on something and it just seems to be requiring an answer that's a little bit more detailed, or a little bit longer, then it'd probably be easier. I'll probably just say, why don't we just have a quick chat about that at the end? Or if you don't have time to stay at the end, give me a call or email me and I'll contact you, because that way we can kind of move through things hopefully fairly quickly. Not everything is going to be of interest to absolutely everybody, but hopefully there'll be enough bits and pieces here that will help you as your child makes the transition to the middle school. So just to so that I know who is here, and also I think for your own interest as well, just maybe put up your hand. Who do we have here that currently, or last year or year before, had a child at SMUS, but never at the middle school before? Just put up your hand here. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so that's predominantly parents that are making the transition with their children from the junior school. And while it can seem to be a very different school because we're in a different setting and it's a different grade structure, we are the same school. And so welcome, and I hope this will be of interest to you. How about families that have a child that either are currently at the middle school or maybe in the past had a child at the middle school and are already sort of familiar a little bit with our middle school? How many of those families? One or two? Okay, thank you. That's of interest too. And new families to SMUS. This is your very first year at the school. Wow, tremendous. Thank you very much. And a special welcome to you for joining the SMUS community. So the middle school, there is a package of information that I hope you all managed to grab as you came in. If not, there are some more outside. I'll be referring to some things in here. Now, a lot of this information in the package you may already have seen either through emails that I've sent you to links or on the web page if you've done a bit of exploring. So if there are some things in there that you already have printed or you already have seen and you don't need another copy, then just feel free to leave them as you exit tonight, and I'm sure we can reuse them. But I didn't want to kill too many trees, but I also wanted to make sure that that if you didn't have the information, you at least had it. But like I said, most of it is available on our website. So before we actually get to the, actually maybe I'll do that now. So the agenda that you have is going to take you through a number of things about daily life at the middle school and some key events that happen over the course of the year. So I'll get back to that just in a couple of minutes. The middle school is a time of huge changes in students, and we really believe that it's important to provide them with their own program and their own setting. So while we are here on the Richmond campus with senior school students, we are very much a separate program here on the Richmond campus. Peers are becoming more and more important, and often parents are becoming a little less important, at least over the 3 years of middle school. And so we are literally in the middle, both parents and also students, between elementary and high school. And for parents, it can be a challenging time. Children often at this age want to establish a little more distance from their parents. Their peers become increasingly important. The range in maturity can be quite significant within the same grade, but especially from grade 6 to grade 8, and even surprisingly so between the boys and the girls. I know that's a huge shock to all of you. I remember my own middle school years. Your role can sometimes be a little bit fuzzy as your child is making the transition. I think it's a little easier to understand the role of parents at the elementary level and even also at the high school or the senior school level, just because of where they're at. But here in the middle, welcome to my world. All right, this is an interesting time of transition for students, but also for parents. And sometimes it's not really clear as parents, do I ask, do I not ask, do I get involved, do I not get involved, what is actually going on. When my child who used to tell me everything about their day sort of gives me the terse yes or fine, or do I really know what's going on? Some children at this age still will tell their parents a lot about what's going on. Most of it, I'm sure, is true. And others, probably you'll be talking to some of your kids' friends or their parents to say, hey, what is really going on over at the middle school? So we recognize that it can be a little bit of a challenging time for parents. And for teachers, sometimes we struggle a little bit knowing how much information to give, when to make that phone call or send that email, when to respond, because we want the students to develop some independence. And so we also don't always get it right all of the time. We do tend to err on the side of information and communication, but there are going to be moments, and every family is a little bit different, when you might say, oh gee, I wish I had known that, or hey, too much information, I don't need to know that. And that's sort of how we have to look at things too. The goal really of your children's time at the middle school, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 years, is really to continue the outstanding work that happens at our junior school if you're making the transition from there, or if you're brand new to the school, to bring them into our community and to help them through their time here at the middle school, so that when they leave and they're ready to make the huge jump to the senior school, and yes, they will be ready at the end of grade 8. They have that foundation, not just the academic foundation, but also the skills and the knowledge and the right kind of attitude, so that they know how to persevere, they know how to go and find out about something, and just are much better ready for when that happens. We track the students fairly carefully, because I'm in the unique situation in this kind of school of being able to see students not only through the middle school, but follow what happens when they come here to the senior school. And of course, me and my staff, we have a huge interest in wanting to follow those students and seeing them again, and just kind of talking to them and just wondering what they're up to and the changes that they go through. I know when I saw the list of students in grade 12 for this year that are in formal leadership roles, and there's a lot of leadership roles in grade 12 for students, I would say that, not including the boarders, because we just have a very small boarding population in grade 8, of the day students, there are probably this year about 90% in those formal leadership positions in grade 12 that were at the middle school. And so whether it's service, whether it's leadership, or whether it's all of the other things that they will have the opportunity to be involved in, we do see that this does pay off. My staff of about 35 full and part-time people, in addition to office staff and other people, understand this age group, and most importantly, they want to spend their whole entire day with them, which I know as parents maybe you don't want to have to do all of the time. Indeed, we do see quite a range of behaviors. Often, children are the same at school as they are at home. Sometimes they are different. Sometimes they are more difficult at school than at home, and sometimes it's the other way around. They're easier at school than they are at home. So we have a lot of experience working with students of this age group. We understand them really well. We see them in the context of a school and see the dynamics that happen with their classmates and with their teachers. And so as we put all of this together, I hope you're getting the sense that it's a very it's a complex, but it's a great organization, and our middle school students do really like being at school. I also just want to thank you for making the decision to send your child to our school or to continue to send your child, because I know there are lots of options that are available, and I know that from the junior school, other than the two families that physically moved away from Victoria, all of those students are coming into grade 6, which is tremendous, and that's pretty typical. And as well, we've got a lot of new families as well. This year, we actually have a bit of a larger population than we've had in previous years. Our target is around 210 students in grades 6, 7, and 8. Sometimes we're at about 200. Sometimes we're a little bit higher than that, and this year we are opening up right now with, I believe, 211 or 12 students, and so we are in very, very good shape. Currently, I think there are 69 students that are coming into grade 6, of which I think 43 or 44 from the junior school, so a number of new students. 70 students in grade 7, of which I think there are 4 new students. And in grade 8, we have 80-some students in grade 8, of which we have our largest boarding population in many years. We have 24 grade 8 boarding students, and 9 of those are English language learners. And the rest come from Canada and all over the place, all over the world. So we're very, very pleased with how we are starting the year. We really take the task of educating your child very, very seriously, but we also like to have fun. This is an age group that is full of energy and full of life, and we offer lots of options for students. So in addition to our strong academic program and what happens in those academic classrooms, the arts, athletics, leadership, citizenship, co-curricular, all those kinds of things, we really do offer a lot of opportunities from students. So I'm going to get started with the formal portion, and like I said, we will stop every so often and see if you have any questions. So I'm just going to begin very quickly. For those of you that are not familiar with this particular campus, and especially for our brand new families, so we are here at the Copeland Lection Theatre on the Richmond campus. There you've got all of the residences of our 250 students that come from all over the world. These are all senior school classroom blocks. The senior school has a significantly higher population than the middle school, and it's run very much on sort of the university model in terms of how students pick their courses and how they're organized and all of that. Just a great post-secondary program. So the middle school, if you haven't been there or seen it, is right over here on the edge of the campus. And so we do use a few classrooms just under Brown Hall. There's 3 classrooms that we use there. as well as one classroom in the basement of schoolhouse where the library is. But by and large, this is where the action happens. All of our students start their day at the middle school in their tag group. That's where they will be spending most of their time. If they have a class in this building or in this schoolhouse library, then they just make the walk there and then come back afterwards. They would not tend to have many classes in those areas. Grade 8 math, for example, is in these classrooms. Japanese and Mandarin are mostly in here. Grade 7 math is here as well, and then the odd bit of other courses here and there. But this is really where it all happens. The advantage of being on this campus with the senior school is that we get to share these incredible facilities. So single gym, double gym, squash courts. There's a very delicate balance with the schedule to make sure that all of the students that need to access it can. Of course, our playing fields, which you see, which is also used by the middle school and the senior school. And probably the number one thing that new students say that they look forward to, our dining hall, Brown Hall. So of course, as a residential school with our 250 boarding students, we have a full service dining hall where they eat all of their meals. And as I'll explain a bit later, day students also have access to Brown Hall. The chapel, just located right here, is used by both the middle school and the senior school. We have gatherings of the middle school community on Tuesday mornings for about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the week. We're not a religious school in any way. There's no religious education or anything of that sort. The tradition and the history of the school is that it was associated with the Anglican Church. So we have a chapel, but our chaplain focuses more on service and leadership and values. In the first chapel, he will make sure that all the students know that regardless of their faith or if they're not, it doesn't matter. It's basically just a time for us to get together as a middle school community. Students will often perform in chapel, and a chance just to hear a story or two and just do a little bit of reflection. It's really a great moment to the week, and parents are welcome really any time. So that's sort of what the campus looks like. Let me just do a quick glance at the next one. So on the edge of the campus is the middle school. It doesn't look like it's much of a building. It's been there for quite a few years, but it's what goes on inside which really counts. The students have a beautiful foyer inside the building, and there are classrooms on the top floor, on the main floor, which is also where our library is, and in the basement is our art room, PE lockers, strings, choir, and also band. If you haven't had a chance to go through the middle school, just please drop in at any time, and we'd be very happy to show you around. Okay, so the first thing on the agenda is really the first days of school, and for that I'm just going to quickly take you to our website, and I'll show you a few things here that will. So although it says new to SMUS, it really is for all parents. Just take a look here. Sorry, go back and. Close this off here. All right. So here is where there's some information about what the school year looks like when we get started in just over a week's time. So for all grade 6s, let me just take a look here. There we go. So all grade 6s are here all day long on the very first day of school next Wednesday. They are all part of the Web Where Everybody Belongs program. This is a program that we started a few years ago that's really helped us to transition all of the students that come to us from the junior school, as well as all of the new students in grade 6 that are not coming from the junior school. So we have a couple of teachers who are in charge of this program. They, grade 8s, grade 7s in the spring who are going to be in grade 8 apply to become a web leader. We then choose quite a broad cross-section of students, and then they receive special training, and then they are all set to welcome your child on the very first day of school at 8 o'clock. So basically they are together, all the grade 6 students are with their web leaders and these 2 teachers all morning, and they do a whole range of games and activities and just things to welcome them to the middle school, to make sure that students that are coming from the junior school get to know students that are new to the school, and vice versa. And those groups are always mixed with students from the junior school and new students to the school. The other thing that happens as part of the web program is that it's not just on the very first day. All of our grade 8 web leaders have a t-shirt, and they are allowed to wear that t-shirt for the first couple of days of the school year. And that way those grade 6 students, because they are part of this web group and they get to know their web leaders really well, can easily find them if they need to over the course of the first few days. So if there is anything that they need to know, they can go and talk to their web leader. During the course of the school year, there will be the occasional web activity. So Mrs. Mollenhauer, Mrs. Lee, with the grade 8 web leaders, will organize some fun activities for all the grade 6s at lunchtime. And there's something that happens at Halloween, there's something that happens just before the end of the first term, there's other things that happen in the second term, and they finish off with a big get-together in the third term. So there are a number of events that they do, and that just helps to bring in all of the grade 6s, because whether they're coming from the junior school or are new to SMUS, they're all brand new to the middle school. For new students, we're coming into grade 7 and grade 8. It's just slightly different. It's a much smaller number. We have grade 8 we have grade 8 student ambassadors. So those grade 8 students, when they were in grade 7 at the end of the year, also had to apply to be a student ambassador. They received some training, and part of their job is to help to get to know the new students that come in grade 7 and grade 8. And so those students come on that first day at 10 o'clock, and for the rest of that morning they are together with the teachers that are in charge of that program and with some of our grade 8 students. So they get a chance to sort of get to know one another and be introduced to the school in that way. And then in the afternoon of that day, everybody has lunch here at the school, and then in the afternoon all the returning grade 7 and 8 students arrive, and they are joined by all of the grade 6 students and the new 7s and 8s, and they spend their afternoon with their teacher advisor. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. So that's how sort of the first day looks like. Are there any questions about any of sort of this in terms of that first day? Yes?
Drop off and pick up on the first day.
So drop off is, if it's for grade 6, it's right before 8 o'clock, and it's right in the parking lot between the middle school and the library and the gymnasium. And so you can just kind of pull in. They can get out of the car, and then there will be the web leaders will be there to greet the students. And then in 7 and 8, I believe I think there's some information went out, and I believe they are meeting in the basketball court just outside the middle school. Okay, and the drop off for new students in 7 and 8 would be just before 10 o'clock. Okay, great. So that's sort of how that's sort of what happens there. Yes.
The basketball court,
the outside basketball court, where the play structure is. Okay. So the next thing that I wanted to go over quickly is let's see, here we go. Is the student student timetable. Before I get to that one, I'm going to actually show you something else that will be. Where is it? Actually, maybe it's right here. So I think this is on a colored sheet that you have. There we go. And I think it's in your package. I think it's the yellow sheet. Okay. So this is what a middle school timetable looks like. We operate on a 10-day cycle, and so and 7 periods a day. Let me just scroll down here so you can see sort of what the rest of it looks like. So over the course of the 10 days, there are 70 periods, and students get a certain number of periods in each subject throughout those 10 days. That number ranges from 1 class in 1 subject once every 10 days to 16 in grade 6 and 7, and to 8 in grade 8. So the school day starts at 8 o'clock. All the students go into their tag group, which I'll get to in a few minutes. 2 classes after tag, approximately 50 minutes in duration. A 20-minute recess. 2 more classes. Lunchtime, and I'll talk about lunch in a little while. And then 3 classes in the afternoon. And the school day ends at 3:10. You'll notice on a couple of timetables that I'm going to show you that there are 5 periods every cycle that every student has in common. 2 of them are what we call VVAT blocks, and those occur on days 5 and 10 in period 1. That's something new that we brought in 2 years ago. I think this will be our 3rd year. And basically what happens during these VVAT blocks is that it gives us an opportunity to have different things occur that are not going to affect the instructional time in the courses. It's actually working out extremely well. It also means that in any one week, we'd never have more than 1 day when we would have shortened classes in periods 1 and 2. It used to be that there were 2 days a week when that would happen, and now there's only 1 because of this. So it's really allowed us an opportunity to give a little more time sometimes to teacher advisor groups. It's given us an opportunity to have some extra rehearsals or practices according to the special events that are coming up. If a VVAT day, 5 or 10, falls on a chapel day, which is Tuesdays, then we start the day with that, and then it doesn't impact the instructional time for the rest of that period 1. So it's just given us a little more time. When we have our assemblies, as much as possible, we will have them during one of these blocks, because that way too it's not going to interfere with the instructional time. So it's really a flexible time that we have built into the schedule that happens about once a week, and that we do different things for. Resist the temptation if your child says, "Oh, tomorrow is day 5, it's a VVAT period 1, it's okay if I sleep in and come in late." Not really, because so much of what we're doing happens outside of the classroom in terms of community building and spending time in teacher advisor groups and other things. It's all really, really important. Exploratory is a period that we have 3 times a cycle on days 3, 7, and 9, and that is common as well to every student at the middle school. And this program is 10 years old. It's undergone quite a significant change over those 10 years. Some years we've changed it significantly, other years we just tweak it a little bit. For this particular age group, it's so important to have some time for them to explore, to get into things which they might not necessarily get, or to just dabble in something for 8 or 9 or 10 periods and then change into something else. What's also really good is that it allows us the opportunity to put students in different grades together. And so during exploratory, it's an ungraded time in their schedule where they get a chance to pick from a menu of activities a number of things that they are going to be interested in, and from that we allocate one of those to them in each term, and sometimes they will get their second or their third choice, but we try and balance it out over the course of the year. So exploratory will run the gamut of curricular extensions like special art projects that a student might not be exposed to in a regular art class. It could be some additional English writing opportunities. It could be something that's totally non-curricular. There may be some dance that's happening there. There could be some woodworking. There could be some extra music ensembles. Every year, it's a little bit different. And every time we also have our production, which is also going to be this year, and I'll talk about that later, we also try to use some of the exploratory time to rehearse. And that way we limit the amount of instructional time that a lot of those students would otherwise lose if we didn't have that. So it's really a time during the year when we break up the year into 4 terms. They're each about 10 classes. And then the students rotate through a variety of activities, really largely of their own choosing. So that's really what that is all about. And then the day ends at 3:10. In terms of explaining sort of what a timetable might look like. So here is a typical grade 6 timetable. So 70 periods. A slightly different rotation every day of the cycle. Day 1, for example, Mandarin, humanities. Math, choir, health and career education, and French. Day 2, science, humanities, etc. And so that way you can see that throughout the schedule, the courses are always taught at different times. And that's how a student sort of goes through their day. In the online calendar, as well as the one that I've included with this package, it will give you a month-by-month calendar that will have the days of the cycle. So if you ever want to check and see, okay, what is today going to be, you know what the day of the cycle is, and then you can look at your child's timetable and know what his or her courses are. In grade 6 and in grade 7, because it's organized very, very similarly, you notice that we have these, what we call XPE blocks. So that this happens 4 times a cycle in grade 6 and 4 times on different days for grade 7. Our PE program is one where we really have a lot to offer the students. 3 times out of 10 in their regular PE, and I'm just sort of looking for what would be like a regular PE class on here. Right, day 2 after lunch. Thank you. Day 2 after lunch. So there's a PE class right there. That's actually right, 11 to 11:50. So Mrs. Mollenhauer would see this group 3 times as one single group. The XPE is when the whole grade has PE at once. So all 60 grade 6 students would be together for PE at the same time. We add a couple of other staff that aren't necessarily PE teachers at the school, but who have experience or background in a number of sports and who may have taught PE at some time. And then with the PE teachers who lead that, they divide the whole grade into 4 different groups. And that gives them the flexibility over the course of the entire year to organize different things at different times. So they might have, for example, sometimes there might be a few classes where there are 2 groups of boys and 2 groups of girls. Sometimes it might be a time when there's boys and girls mixed together and they're doing a particular sport at a particular level. Or they could be having different sports altogether. There could be 2 groups in the gym, one doing maybe volleyball, one doing basketball, 2 groups outside doing other sports. It basically gives them the flexibility to offer a very rich PE program. And it also allows your child, when they have PE, to not always be with the same group of students every time. Okay, so that's something also I wanted to point out to you. So that's sort of what a grade 6 and very similarly what a grade 7 timetable looks like. The way students are organized into groups is very, very different than how they were organized at the junior school and how they will be organized at the senior school. The middle school program is a very rich program and one where they take a lot of subjects. It's very different at the junior school where the students are basically organized by class groups. and everybody stays together for the whole day. Senior school is like university. The kids are off all over the place, and many of them are taking different subjects, and it's all just timetabled that way. At the middle school, in order for me to be able to ensure that all of our students can be scheduled into either band or strings, that all of them can also be scheduled into the right level of second language that they're taking, as well as other ways that we like to group students, they are constantly with different kids during the day. So there is in grade 6 and grade 7 about 6 different ways that students are organized throughout the timetable. So what that means is that when they're in humanities, in this case with Mrs. Lee, they will always be in the same class grouping. When they move to math or when they move to French, they will maybe with some of the same students, but they will definitely be with different students. That way they're not with the same students all day long, and they get a chance to work and get to know many other students in their grade. It's a schedule that I devised about 10 years ago. It takes me usually about 4 weeks in the summer to redo every year because there's lots of changes that happen every year to number of sections for music and for second language and other things. Teachers change assignments, new people come on board, and it gives us a lot of flexibility, and it's a really good way of organizing students here at the middle school. So that's why when you say, oh, well, is my child going to be with so-and-so all the time? No, they're not. Okay, they will be with different students. They may be with somebody that they know for a couple of classes, or they could be with somebody they know for more than that. Please try and resist the urge to kind of go, well, my child really needs to be in here or with so-and-so and that. We get to know the students really quickly, very well, and we see how they interact with one another. Unless you notice after the year starts that there seems to be a real issue with something that's going on in terms of the dynamics, please give it some time. They adjust, they are very resilient. They will see their classmates and people that they feel really connected with. If they're not in more than maybe 1 or 2 of the classes, or maybe none of them, they will see them at other times during the day. They will make and develop new friendships. But if you notice something that you think we really need to be aware of, then absolutely please let us know that. Yes? Is there a time when students elect between band and strings? Yes. So the way that works is that when our students come up from the junior school, they have already had 2 years of strings, and so the strings program in grade 6 is a continuing advanced program. Students that are coming new to us in grade 6 or ones that come from the junior school, they usually will take band. If the students in the junior school wants to switch, they can make the switch into beginning band. Sometimes we have some students that are new to the school that have previous string experience. I know of a few of those, and then we contact the strings teacher. She will meet with the student and see whether that student can join the strings class. We want to make sure that it's not going to be too difficult and that it's going to work out for everybody. So if in your situation there is previous strings experience and you want to explore that, then we can talk. But otherwise, for new students, they go into band program. Okay, so it's a beginning band program in grade 6. It continues in grade 7, and then in grade 8 we have 2 different streams. We have a regular/beginning band program for grade 8. That's largely students that are new in grade 8, but we also have an advanced or continuing band program with students that start in grade 6. I have that information when I do the admissions and go through all of the applications and speak with students. If for new students in grade 8, we haven't done the right thing and the students should be in the other level, then we will find that out very early at the start of the year. Our band teacher is just spot on, and he will say, hey, you know what, we need to make a switch here. Okay, so that usually happens. And in grade 6, all the band students will spend the first part of the year learning about the different instruments, and Mr. Farish will then help them to select one that's most appropriate, that they like, and also works well for the ensemble. Not everybody gets to play the drums, unfortunately. In grade 8. So in grade 8, a very similar timetable than grade 6 and 7, but just with a couple of differences. So in grade 8, it's the same sort of rotation. Students are also organized, are grouped kind of here and there, same principle as grade 6 and grade 7. It's not the same matrix in grade 8 as it is for 7. It's not the same in 7 for 6. Each grade has its own particular way that we group the students throughout the timetable. What you notice about grade 8 is that instead of having the 4 single cross PE classes, they have 2 doubles, day 1 and on day 6. So these are their 4 cross grade period classes. So grade 8 out of when PE is 7 days out of 10, so they get PE 5 days out of 10 rather than 7 because 2 of those days are doubles. Grade 8s love cross grade 8 PE because what happens there is that after the first couple of first cycle, maybe the first 2 or 3 classes, the grade 8 students spend most of the rest of the year off campus. Having these double blocks strategically placed right after recess allows them to get changed at recess, get on the bus to go wherever they're going, have a decent amount of instructional time, and then get back in time for lunch. And if they get back a little bit late, it's lunch, and they'll still be able to have lunch. So what happens in cross grade 8 PE is that the students every year have a whole range of activities that they will be rotated through. In our leadership and activity guide, there's a whole page dedicated to that, and you can see what all those things are. Swimming, there's cooking classes where they actually are in a demonstration kitchen. There's all kinds of, there's martial arts, there's yoga, there's lawn bowling, there's golf, there's just a whole range of things that they get an opportunity to do, and it changes a little bit every year. Grade 8s love this program, again, because it's all of the grade together. So imagine 80 grade 8s all having PE at the same time. You might think, well, that's crazy, but it really works. So even when they're here on campus, we have 6 teachers assigned to those students, the 2 main PE teachers and 4 additional teachers. And so they will be able to group them like we do with the 6 and 7s, but just for a longer activity. Sometimes they may have a sports practice during this time, so that would mean that they may not have to practice after school, especially at the start of the year. So that's sort of how that looks like. And other than that, the schedule is pretty much the same for all of the students in grade 6, 7, and 8. Are there any questions about how that works? Have I probably given you too much information? Yes?
In terms of picking the exploratory.
Right.
So my daughter's going grade 7.
Right.
So do they do that the first week?
So in terms of how that works, they will get the opportunity. So here you'll see this is their timetable, so period 7 there, right? So they've got the exploratory in those 3 days. On their schedule that they'll get next week, it'll designate 1 or 2 or 3 teachers. That's just so that we can schedule them exploratory. The names of the teachers mean nothing because once they start exploratory, we put them in a group. So before the very first exploratory class, which actually doesn't happen on the first day 3, it'll happen on the first day 7, they will have selected, they will have indicated their choice for exploratory, and Mrs. Haydock, the assistant director, will have put them into an exploratory group. About 80% of the middle school teachers have exploratory as part of their assigned time, and so a lot more, so that allows us to have smaller groups and allows us to offer a diversity of things. And it may be that if in grade 7 that there is an exploratory, that particular one may just be with grade 7 students, or it could be a combination of students depending on what it is. Okay? All right. Moving along. So number 3, which is tag. Let me just go here. Sorry, where you? All right, so we've done the first two, and we'll try to maybe whip through the rest. So number 3 is teacher advisor group, or TAG. So every student gets placed in a cross-grade teacher advisor group. This is a small group of about 12 to 13 students, with some in grade 6, some in grade 7, and some in grade 8. It's not a homeroom, and the terminology is quite deliberate because homeroom refers to a room. Whereas teacher advisor group refers to a concept of having a teacher who is there to advise, who is there to be a child's advocate, who is there to really get to know your child. And if your child is entering grade 6 and that teacher is there for 3 years in a row, which of course most of them are, then your child will have that same teacher advisor for all 3 years. So as the students come in grade 6, and the grade 7 and the grade 8 students in that TAG group are there to help out, they then will assume that role when they are in those grades as well. So students start their day in their TAG group from 8 o'clock until about 8:10. That's a time when the TAG teacher will greet them, just kind of do a little bit of a check-in. Do you have your things? Maybe hand out some things that they may need, do some reminders or some announcements. Occasionally there'll be an extended TAG when they will do some games or activities together. TAG groups will also occasionally during the year so to get together for a little special treat or breakfast or do things like that. And so that's a really important part of their day, and it's also a really important person that you should connect with and get to know. Your child's TAG teacher may not teach your child this year, although we try to make that happen where possible, but we can't in every case. But if your child is coming to grade 6, it will be probably 100% that at some point your child's TAG teacher will also be their teacher. And so we try and do that very deliberately. We often will place siblings in the same TAG, not always, but often, especially if they're at the school at the same time, because that also means one less person that you need to get to know. And so that's something that usually happens. So the TAG teacher is there at the start of the day. The TAG teacher is also the one that will sort of keep an eye out on them. Will attend student meetings when we discuss students to provide their input and their perspective on that student. TAG teacher writes report card comments, and the TAG teacher will also be contacting you as the year gets started. It's a small group, very deliberately, so that they can really get to know each student in their TAG group. Now occasionally the TAG teachers do change, and so sometimes a student may have a different TAG teacher the following year or the next year. Staff go on leave, staff leave, and that kind of thing. And so, but if as much as possible, they will have the same TAG teacher for all of their 3 years. Any questions about TAG? Okay. In terms of the next item, which is sort of the online resources, it may seem like, let me just take a look here, here we go. It may seem like there's a lot of information here, but really it's extremely useful to parents to make sure that you use our website and know what information is on there, because it's just a great way of keeping tabs on what's going on. So the first thing I wanted to show you is this SMU calendar, because on the SMU calendar you can filter, and I'll just pick middle school, and on there if I go month, or you can go week or whatever. Oops, of course we're not in school mode yet. There we go. So there, by using that filter, you'll see all of the things on the online calendar that have to do with the middle school. So the things that I talked about at the start on the first day of school are all right there, and the details are all there. Our first day 3, which is why we don't have exploratory, because we have house games, all that information about what happens in terms of that activity happens there. photos, information evening. Every time we have a field trip, it'll be on there. Anytime there's any kind of special event or concert, it'll be on there. It's something that we try really hard to maintain. It's not perfect. There are occasionally times when we miss something, but Miss Davis, who actually I didn't introduce and I will now, Miss Davis and I are the gatekeepers for this, and we really try to make sure that that information is there. Actually, this is probably a good time to introduce Patty. Patty, do you mind standing up? Just stand up, please. If you turn around. So the most important person that's here tonight, I'm under no illusions, it's not me, it's Patty. So Patty Davis is my office assistant, and she supports me, Mrs. Haydock, the assistant director, of course all of the staff as well. She is the person in the office that you will see when you come in. She is the person that will be answering the phone 90% of the time, except if for some reason she's sick or she's away and maybe I have to, and then I show people I really have no idea what's going on at the school. But Patty is the one that you will hear from. She's the one that will send you emails and notes, and if there's something that you need to find out about, she's a really good person to contact. What else is on here is, just taking a look here, is on our, where is it here, admissions program, here we go, is our parent portal. So the parent portal for new parents is a way that you get information about things that used to be sent in the mail. So for example, all the report cards are posted on the parent portal. They're not sent in the mail. And you'll get an email telling you when report cards are posted. Financial statements for all student accounts, registration forms, student directory, etc., etc. It's all on the parent portal. There's a process on the web page where you can create an account if you don't have one, and people that you should contact if you're having difficulty. Please don't contact me. I have no idea how that gets set up. That's our tech department. But the parent portal is a really important thing. And then the other thing is also all of our publications. So on the publications link, you will have the things that much of what you have in the package are school dates at a glance, handbooks, Brown Hall menu if you want to see what's on there in terms of what the kids will be eating that day, the supply list, the parents' handbook. On the other page I showed you at the start that has to do with the start of the year, you'll also see the middle school parent handbook. So all of these things are on there, and sometimes it just takes a few minutes to learn how to navigate all of those things, but it's really worthwhile. Our athletic calendar, so starting next week, on this SMU calendar will also be the middle school athletic and practice calendar. So Mrs. Molinar, who's the middle school athletic director, she puts together a calendar every week that gets posted usually by the end of the weekend or early on Monday, and it will be a link from this calendar page, and it will say what the practices are that week, what the games are that week. And so it's and you can print it off. It's a very easy way for you as parents to just print off the calendar, see what the sports are, and refer to it. Now, sometimes there are changes that are unavoidable that happen kind of last minute during the course of the week, but it's really quite accurate, and it's a great way to say to your child, oh, so grade 8 soccer is starting tomorrow. Why don't you go out? Or this is happening. Or I want to go and catch your game. When are you playing? I don't know. Well, here we go. Here's a calendar. Now I know I'm going to go to Royal Oak and watch you play basketball or whatever. So, or come to the school and watch you play. So the athletic calendar is also a really good way of keeping track of that. So are there any questions about those online resources, about things that you can access? Okay, I think the next thing on the item is the agenda. I think that's item number 5. So this is last year's student agenda, and we're in a bit of a transition because of technology and students. So we are going to continue this year by giving every student at no charge. The first one is at no charge. If they lose it, then the second one gets charged. The first, a student agenda. So this is sort of a middle school sized agenda. It's not really small and like senior school where you can't see what they actually have written in there. It's not really big like sometimes what they have in elementary school, because that's for those age of kids. It's kind of in between. So they will all get an agenda, but some of them will decide to use a different kind of agenda that they prefer using, of their own choosing, or they may use an electronic agenda if they want to, which is fine. All that we ask is that the students are clear with you, and they will also be clear with their tag teacher, what they're going to be using. It has to be a partnership between the student and the home and the parent. So they will all be given the opportunity to receive one of these on the first day. Some of them will come back saying, oh no, I've got my smartphone, I'll use that, or I have a different way that I want to record it, and that's fine. We don't want to give it to them if they're going to end up not using it at all. But many students, the vast majority, will use this agenda, and whatever system your child decides to use at this age, especially when you get the, what's for homework, nothing, it's really something that you need to discuss with your child. Okay, we make sure that we get the students in the habit of using whatever system they are using, and so in almost all classes, towards the end of the class, the teacher will say, "Get out your agenda and write down this and write down that." Now, sometimes with the hustle and bustle of what goes on, good intentions don't always get realized, but I would say especially in grade 6, there's a heavy focus on students, making good use of their agenda. As they get older, then it becomes a little more their responsibility. But certainly it is something that we go over with students, and we all do expect that they will use something. Now, this company that we worked with for a number of years also now has come out with an electronic version. We looked at testing it out this year, but we decided it just wasn't right for us right now. So we're continuing with this year, but many students will choose to use something else. And that's fine with us as long as they use something. Any questions about the agenda? Okay. So then, yes. That's a good point, thank you. That's one of those things that in the triage kind of got left off. Once the school year starts, the teachers will get together and they will create a template of a homework timetable. And by that, what I mean by that is that the students will get copies of a timetable that will indicate that on certain days of the cycle, they should focus on these 2 or 3 subjects if they have homework in them first. Okay? And so what that allows us to do is to create a system where the students hopefully are not going to have homework in 5 different subjects on one night and then nothing in the next night. So, and because when students have math, it's not the same for every student in the grade, right? Because they're in different sections, and so they may not everybody in grade 6 has math on day 1. So sometimes the homework night may be a night when they don't have that subject, but the teacher will know, and the previous day will say, okay, today's day 2, you don't have math homework, but you have math homework for day 3, and I don't see you tomorrow, so you'll do it tomorrow night. Okay, so there's that shared responsibility, and it's not a perfect system, but it does give us does give the students a good idea of when they should expect to have homework. And in rule of thumb is that if they don't have any work to do whatsoever, and you believe them, then simply say to them, you know what, it's just so important, and you didn't have, you have some extra time tonight, we'll still give you, set aside that half hour, and you can read or do something else. So I think what's more important is that habit. We also recognize that families and kids are extremely busy, and in middle school we kind of go between how much to assign, how much work is done during the school day, and I get comments from families that range from, I expect my child to have 3 hours every night, to I expect my child to have none because they're so busy in everything else, and everything in between. The amount of homework that children, the amount of time that it will take to complete homework also varies greatly, right? Two students may take very different amounts of time to complete the same task. So that also gets factored into it. But as a general rule of thumb, so we would expect about an hour on school nights devoted to that. And you may see that sometimes it's more, sometimes it could be a little bit less. We do stress that there is not to be any homework on long weekends, on those 4 or 5 times during the year, because a lot of families travel and do that, and we don't want kids to feel like on long weekends they should have a lot of stuff to do. So that is a no homework zone on long weekends. And I think you'll find that your experience will be that it will vary greatly from year to year, and it also depends on sort of how much time your child needs to complete the homework. But if you're finding that either there's far too much of it or there seems to be none of it, both of those are issues, and you should then just contact your child's tech teacher to say, I'm kind of wondering about this. Could you look into it, please, and let me know. Before 8 a.m., lunch, and after school. So with the school day starting at 8 o'clock, we have lots of students that are here well before then. We have our jazz band that operates 2 mornings a week outside of the timetable, and that is, I think, at 7:10 or 7:15 on most Tuesday and Thursday mornings. Occasionally there might be a practice or something happening before then, but as a rule not. What we do ask is that students are here, unless of course they're coming on our school transportation and they may be delayed, or it's whenever they arrive. But otherwise, we really encourage the students to be here at the middle school by about 10 to 8, 5 to 8, sort of. That gives them time to sort of go to the locker, get their things for the first couple of periods, find their way, chat with a couple of friends, and sort of get ready. For students that arrive during tag, or even after that, what we notice, particularly at with this age group, is that they get panicked, they start to stress out, and then it sort of doesn't really get their day off to a good start. There will be students that will be here as early as 7:30, and that's okay. There's lots of staff around as well. There's no supervision that happens around that time, but the students kind of are in the building and they're chatting or that kind of thing. We really don't run into problems before school with any of that kind of thing. So I'm usually arrive around 7:30. Many staff are here before then, and really I think as long as they're here, by 5 to 8, sort of 10, 5 to 8, that is really the ideal time for them to arrive at school. At lunchtime, which is 50 minutes from 11:50 to 12:40, very different than the junior school, and maybe different from your experience if you're coming from another school. So students have a choice of either having their lunch in Brown Hall, or if they want to, they can bring a lunch from home, or they can do a bit of both. Whatever you decide with your child you want to see happen. If they want to have lunch in Brown Hall, then they simply scan their card. I think it shows up on your account, of course. It's a very, very good lunch because it's a self-serve. There's always a couple of hot entrees. There's a salad bar. There's fruit. There's soup. There's all kinds of things there, and basically they help themselves. I believe it's $6.50, which is a pretty good bargain, especially when your children are older and they're at the senior school and when they eat an awful lot more, because there's no there's no difference in grade. It's the same price. So $6.50 I think is what the charge is, and then it'll just be posted to your child's account at the end of the month. But your child will have their student card. They will go and scan. If you don't want them to do that, then that's a conversation you need to have with them, or say yes, maybe occasionally, or you can do this today. But there are children that will bring a brown bag lunch from home and decide they want to eat at Brown Hall, and we don't know that, and that's not something that we monitor. Those that do bring their lunch from home have a choice really of eating pretty much wherever they want to. They can go to Brown Hall and eat with their classmates who are getting lunch at Brown Hall if they want, because we're small enough that we have enough room for that. So many students will bring their lunch and they'll just walk into Brown Hall, and they know that they're brown bagging it and their accounts aren't charged. Other than that, they can eat in the middle school with tables set up in the foyer on both floors. If it's nice, they can go outside. There's picnic tables, or they can go on the grass. So they can really have lunch with whoever they want to have lunch with. It's not just with the kids that are in their class all day long. And then after that, they're free to play outside or in the gym, or go to a student council meeting or a club or an activity, or hang out, that kind of thing. They very quickly sort of, gather in their groups. Yes.
If they're doing the Brown Hall
Right.
option, what about snacks during the day?
So they can bring a snack is a good idea, and they should have one for recess.
Okay.
For that 9:50 to 10:10 time at this age, they absolutely need to have a snack in the morning. Remember, they're at school early, and they can't wait till 11:50. The teachers will thank you if you pack a good, healthy snack for your child to eat. In fact, middle school students have been known to eat a good portion of their snack before the day even starts. But I'm telling tales out of school. So yes, please do that. So that's kind of what lunch looks like. It's not structured. There are teachers on duty. The students really don't mix with senior school kids. Our lunch is staggered, so by the time they're finished in Brown Hall, senior school is just starting. And believe me, when senior school lunch starts at 12:10, 12:15, the middle school students don't want to be there, except if they kind of get in towards the end of grade 8 when they figure they're already in grade 9. But really, and also the teachers on duty don't want to be there either. So basically the lunch hour is staggered, and then after that they have the rest of the time to basically do what they want to do. And they will figure it out. There's a play structure, there's basketball, there's often a gym that's open. They'll get a soccer ball which they can sign out, or frisbee or other things. They bring their own stuff. They may be in the middle school hanging out, doing something. It's a chance for them at this age to deal with some of that awkwardness of sort of kind of not really too sure how to gather and whether to talk to girls or vice versa, and all of that kind of stuff. And there's also lots of things that are happening at lunch hour as well. Okay, so that is a significant change. After school, so our formal day ends at 3:10 at the end of period 7. There is no after-school care per se. Nobody is on duty at the middle school after school. What does happen is that many students will stay and will hang out because they'll have a practice, or they'll have a game, or they may want to be in the library or do something like that, and that's absolutely fine. We do offer what's called a homework club, and it's not a punishment, or it's not something that has any stigmatism associated with it. It's a very popular place where our students go to the library, where we have 1 or 2 people on duty, and they will help them with their homework, give them some assistance, and will sort of be a place where they can hang out to be with their peers and work if they want to do that. That runs until 4 o'clock, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. But if they don't do that and they stay at school after 3:10, then they may be involved in a practice, or they may just want to hang out a little bit with their friends or stay at school. I would certainly encourage you to make sure that if your child doesn't have something scheduled after school, or if they're not going to be going to library for homework club, that they do get picked up. I'd say by 4 o'clock, because you want to give them a little bit of time sometimes to just sort of decompress and hang out a little bit. But a lot of kids get picked up right at 3:10 or 3:15. Most of the rest of them will get picked up around 4 o'clock if they're not at school doing something. And then others will be here much later, especially if they have a practice or a game or something like that. Because of the use of our facilities, sometimes students, and we try to do this more so in the later grades, they might not have a practice start until 4:30 or 5 o'clock, just because of gym space or because of the sports schedule. And so they have some time to fill before they have their practice, and that's often when they are just kind of doing work or just kind of hanging out. And we rarely have issues with that, but where we do have issues is when students are here, after 4 o'clock and they don't have anything to do, and there is no supervision. Okay, there are people around, but we don't monitor, and it's just because there's lots of things that are going on. One of the advantages is that if your child is going to be here later in the afternoon or early evening because of a game or because of a practice, if it works out, they can have dinner in Brown Hall. That helps you out, because Brown Hall dinner is $4.45 to $6.45, and for the same price as lunch, they can scan their card and have dinner in Brown Hall. It's not just for the boarders. So that's also something which is an advantage if your child is here late and you're kind of wondering, okay, what do I do for dinner? Okay, that is another option because of the kind of facilities that we have. But we really do encourage parents to make sure that by 4 o'clock, unless their child is involved in something supervised and organized, that they're not on campus. Okay? Yes?
The buses, what time do they leave?
So there are buses that leave right after school, and there's also a late bus. And so the bus transportation schedule is all online, and Sharon Como is our bus coordinator. I don't pretend to know how all of that works, so that changes every year. I just know they have a fabulous program, and all of that information is online, and they scan their card in order to do that. So student card account, supply list, and uniform. With the student cards and with your child's account, we mentioned already in terms of how Brown Hall works. Basically, if there are things that you want them to not charge, then have that conversation with them, because if they go to the campus shop, they can just have things put on their account, right? And so you may want to have that conversation, and I'm not trying to deprive the campus shop of business, but if they're just going to buy supplies, you may want to have a word with them. But there's also lots of things, obviously, that they might want to get at campus shop. Other things that they can charge. So Miss Davis in her office will sell these extremely popular green cards. These are called tuck shop passes. They cost $5. 50 cents goes to me. No, sorry. 25 cents. They cost $5, and they're like punch cards. So we have a tuck shop that's next to the dining hall, which the students also love. And in there, over the course of the years, we've changed sort of the menu in that. That's where they can purchase snacks, granola bars, drinks, sports drinks, not things that have a lot of sugar in them, but it's all sort of carefully watched. There are probably a few items in there that may kind of be on the edge, but you know what? You can't protect them from everything. These cards can be charged by students at the office, and Patty will charge the account. They're $5, they're punch cards. They can then go to the tuck shop, and they can then purchase things, and then everything's in 25 cent or more denominations, and then that way they can buy things there as well. If you don't want your child to purchase tuck shop passes, then you can let Miss Davis know. And when your child comes and says, "Oh, can I charge a tuck shop pass?" and you've let her know that you've noticed that there were 10 on your last bill, you can do that. All right? You're the ones who are in charge. But that's what tuck shop. So when your child says, "Oh, can I get a tuck shop pass?" that's what that is all about. All right, Patty.
At the beginning of the year,
Right.
If they tell me, no, my mom hasn't, or my dad hasn't said, I make them go to the phone and get permission. I will not give them.
If they're telling the truth, right? If they're telling the truth, and I'm sure that that they all are. Supply list, you have that in your package. And are there any questions about that supply list that you have? Yes.
Where's good to shop?
Where's
Where's good to shop?
Where's good to shop?
I noticed there's some art supplies.
Yes.
Specific kind of store.
Right.
Staples.
Staples, I think, is pretty good. Yeah. Okay. On the supply list, also it mentions about locks. And again, this is just a suggestion, but it's one that we have found works really well for us. If you want your child to get the combination locks from the school, and it's $6. How much is it?
$6.56.
$6.56, thank you, which is posted to your child's account. Or if you want them to bring whatever lock, they can reuse ones from last year or ones at home, that's fine. But we just don't want them to be either too flimsy or them to be too heavy duty, where even with bolt cutters, our most strongest and ablest middle school teacher is sweating to try and cut them off. Because invariably a lot of them, they will malfunction. And so if there's one at least that was here at the school, depending on how long ago it was purchased, we make allowances for that. But we also do not recommend keys, not only for this age group, but for mine, because that really does not work. With all the best intentions, locks with keys don't work. The funny thing is, and we've got 210 students. I would say that probably about 80% of them never lock their locker anyway. The lock is just used as a way to make sure that the door doesn't swing open. And that's not to say that things occasionally might not go missing, because that could happen. And certainly the best way for kids is to secure their items. But most kids won't, and it really only has to do with one thing: it's faster. They don't have to spend time doing it, right? So anyway, but that's something which happens as well. The uniform, especially for those of you that are brand new to our school, so it's probably in 3 or 4 different places things that have been the uniform explained to you in there. It's something that we take pride in, and we believe that students should take pride in their uniform. We also recognize that sometimes people have bad days, just like we all do, and so we're not going to jump on them just because they haven't done one thing right. But if there's a pattern that develops or an ongoing issue, you bet we will address it. Tuesdays, and this is new for junior school parents, Tuesdays is our number 1 day, because that's when we have chapel. So on Tuesdays is when Tuesdays is when the students need to be in their number 1, and they stay in their number 1 all day long. And it's easy to remember. It's not the day of the cycle. It's always Tuesdays, and it's every Tuesday, whether it's the first day back after a long weekend or whatever. It's always on Tuesdays. Summer dress is also an option, and that we will announce once the year gets started, usually not for a couple of weeks. And then on all the other days, students can wear their number 2 dress. So there is some, other than number 1, there is some choice and some selection, and students have different things that they can wear. So we're quite happy with the variety that students have and the choice that they have, but we do make a big deal out of number 1, because we think if students know that it's important, they can rise to the challenge, and it helps it just helps to establish some pride, and when everybody's in the number 1s, like you saw in the photo that I had earlier, it really is quite something.
Quick question on the locks.
Yes.
So do they go to the Miss Davis, where they
Absolutely.
get their tuck shop cards too? So on day 1?
So tag teachers will be given a bunch of locks, And so on the first day of school, when they are with their teacher advisor, they will be able to get a lock from them if they need one. And after that, they get returned to Miss Davis, and then they can just get one from her. Now this, I believe, I don't think you actually received this in the mail yet, or it might be on its way. So this is our school-wide calendar and parent handbook. Now I have in your packages given you photocopies of the monthly calendar that has the days of the cycle. That's in your package. You can also go to our website and download it if you prefer to have it that way, as well as copies of the K-12 parent handbook, and I've given you a section on the middle school. So this is usually mailed out in the summer. It was not this year. It should arrive before the long weekend, but it is available on site, and the middle school stuff are things that it should be available. Is available on our website, and you will be getting a copy in the mail as well. So one of the other things I wanted to quickly go over is our report cards, and I'm going to show you a couple of examples of what that looks like. So there are four report cards that go out every year. The first one that you will get towards the end of October is let me see that one there. Is the interim report. So the interim report tends to be just one page, and it will be sent to everybody, to parents of all students, both returning and new, and it'll just basically be a short anecdotal comment on how your child's year has started. It's not in all subjects, because there are some subjects where there is less instructional time than others, and there's just not enough data to really do something for a few subjects. But in most subjects, so all the core subjects, there will be a short comment from those teachers and a comment from the teacher advisor. So that's the interim report, and you will get that. Like I said, probably you get that by the third week of October, right before we have our first parent-teacher evenings. Interim report. I have put in your package. That's the interim one. Sorry, I misread that one here. Student end-of-term report. I have put in your package, and I think it's on maybe it's the last page. I have put on your package the first page of our major reports. So 3 other times during the year, in December, in March, and then in June, you will get a complete report. And that will show achievement in all subject areas. So on that report card, so I've just given you sort of what the first page looks like. It talks a little bit about our approach to reporting to parents on how students are doing. Coursework is organized according to prescribed learning outcomes. There is, for each subject, a number of descriptors about specific components of that subject, and the student receives an indication of how they're doing relative to the outcomes. Not yet meeting, approaching, meeting, and exceeding. And then there is also a section on learning skills that's reported on separately. What's important is that achievement be reported differently from work habits. Both are very important. There's usually a correlation, but not always. But in our way of reporting, we want to let you know how your child is doing relative to the outcomes, and then also your child's work habits, because we think that that's important information. Then there are letter grades on those report cards, A, B, C, C+, C, C-. In a couple of courses, because of the amount of time that's allocated to them, they don't receive a letter grade. but they receive this, RM. RM is used when to show you that the requirements were met for that reporting period, but there's no letter grade because it wouldn't really be accurate to assign a letter grade. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. So here, for example, for this student would be a humanities report. This was the one in June, but it could easily have been the one in December or in March. So you've got the learning outcomes, the achievement. So you see how it's all broken so that you have specific information about the strengths and weaknesses of your child, what they're doing very well, where they may be exceeding, and where they may be struggling. Then they get assessed on their learning skills and how they're doing there relative to the scale that's on the first page that you have. And then there's also a comment. So our teachers take a lot of time to complete these report cards. They gather a lot of data over the course of each marking period, and then they pull that all together when it comes time to doing the report cards. So you get the learning outcomes and how they're doing, learning skills, and then you get a comment on that. So that way, if you just got A and you got maybe nothing much else, for humanities, you wouldn't know, well, is my child a strong writer? How is their reading? How is their listening? How is their viewing and representing? What are their strengths and weaknesses? So that way we get all of that. So there's for humanities. Here's a similar example for science. So less outcomes that term because less contact time, but broken up into specific areas of study in science, how that student is doing there, and then the learning skills and a comment. Same for math. So there you see a range here in terms of learning skills. You've got usually and consistently, and so that gives you some good information and whether the child is meeting and what they've done. French is the same thing. And so now those learning outcomes for each subject, some may stay the same from report card to report card based on the focus of the learning of the program for that year, and some may be different. Information technology. So here's an example of one where there was no letter grade, but there was this RM. Information technology I'll talk about in a few minutes, but that's a course where Mr. Floyd teaches that course, and he sees the students formally for a very small amount of time, but he also works with teachers in the classroom and has a sense of how they're integrating technology into a number of things. And so because he only sees them for a short period of time, he can't give them a letter grade, but he can, with all of the data that he has, assign them learning outcomes, learning skills, and also do a summary of an anecdotal comment. And it's the same for health and career education. Health and career education is only 2 times a cycle, so about once a week. And based on the nature of the course, you really can't assign a letter grade to that. But that's how the report card is set up. And those are the report cards that you would get 3 times a year. The way the letter grades are done is that they are cumulative. And so what that means is that when you get your child's report card in December, it will be for the work that they have done that term. When you get your child's report card in March for science, it will be a continuation of that. It's not like term 1 and then you start off fresh in term 2, but a lot of the skills and a lot of the content is cumulative. And so it accrues over the course of the year. What it also allows us to do is that children sometimes need different amounts of time in order to master or demonstrate their knowledge of particular concepts. So if they didn't get it early on, but they got it later on, the most important thing is they got it, right? So we're not going to penalize them because they didn't get it early on because they got it later on. So those are sort of how we do things. Outcome-based report cards have been around for a few years and are quite popular in a number of jurisdictions. And in British Columbia, the course of study is organized according to learning outcomes. outcome-based report cards are ones that we brought in now for a number of years. They are good when they are done well. When they are not done well, they're awful. And I know because I read a lot of report cards from a lot of different places as we look at students. And there are many report cards that I read that leave me scratching my head going, no wonder parents are frustrated because it doesn't really say anything. So when we took this approach to do outcome-based report cards, we wanted to make sure that we did it right and that we really gave concrete information and that we covered as much of it as we could. And so the letter grade is of course important. That's going to give you that sense of how your child is doing in a general sense in that course of study. What we hope children and parents realize is that looking at the learning outcomes, the learning skills, and the comment is as, if not more important, because that tells you how your child is really doing with some specific information. So letter grades are sort of a general summary of the whole content, and where there may be sort of a hesitation between, was it a kind of high B or a low A, the teacher would usually mention that in the comment. Because if they're meeting outcomes, a B is a very good mark, an A is also obviously a very, very good mark. But B, there's nothing wrong with the B, and many of our students sort of panic and say, oh, I've done terrible. No, you haven't. Look at the comments, look at the outcomes, talk to your teacher, see how close you are to where you want to be, and you'll get a better sense. But focus on the rest of the information. So that's really the approach that we've taken here at the middle school. It reinforces our strong academic program, but also that we are about learning. And what we say to the kids is that if you pay attention to the learning and to the work habits and to doing that, the grades will come. Okay, so that's what we want. That's what we want them to focus on. So that's a brief thing on report cards. Are there any questions about that? As you sort of start receiving them and take a look at them, I'm sure there may be some things that come up. So please don't hesitate to contact me around that. Access and use of school technology. So I've got, I know I'm probably going a little bit over time, but I've got, I don't know if you can read that. Contrary to popular belief, not every student at the middle school has their own cell phone, although I'm sure that your son or daughter may try and convince you of that, but that is not true. Many of our students, of course, have cell phones, and I know that's a popular way of communication between you and them, but it's also a very popular way for them to communicate with their peers, and not always in an appropriate way. But we don't ban cell phones. I don't believe in banning technology because that just encourages it to happen in other ways. We prefer to teach students appropriate use of technology. It's a rapidly changing landscape, and we're not pretending that we can keep up with it, but we do talk to the kids an awful lot about appropriate use of technology. So if your child has a smartphone, they're more than welcome to bring it to school if that's something that you want them to have. They can use it in class occasionally if the teacher gives them permission according to what they're doing. They don't use it otherwise in terms of in the hallways as much as possible, but they can go outside if they need to use it sort of at lunchtime or recess. But once the end of the day comes at 3:10, then sort of all bets are off and they can do whatever they want because we just can't really expect much else. So a lot of students do bring their own smartphones, also their own iPads or Chromebooks or laptops. We are not a bring your own device school. Students are not expected to have their own device. We have those devices. We've got iPads and laptops and desktops and Chromebooks, which is used a lot in grade 6 and will be used more in grade 7. So we have all that technology at school, but there are many students who do have their own, and that's fine. It's whatever it is that you feel comfortable with. There are some students who, because of their specific educational plan, only use word process, and so they have that all set up. But students do need to be taught certain skills in technology. I know many of them think that they know it all, and it's a surprise that maybe there are a few things they don't quite know yet. And we negotiate that and sort of help them kind of figure some of these things out. Sometimes they teach us things, and hopefully we also are in a position where we teach them. But we have the technology here at the school. But if they want to bring their own device, then they are more than welcome. They are more than welcome to. They do have an instructional. They do have a technology, information technology class with Mr. Floyd, or this year in grade 8 with Miss Cade. So once a cycle, they are in a lab going over things that we want all the students to have a common message around in terms of accessing our system, doing specific things, specific skills or applications. So there is a little bit of time when they will get direct one-on-one, direct in-class instruction. The rest of the time, it'll all happen and is integrated into their subjects. Obviously, some subjects will use it more than others. In humanities, in grades 6 and 7, a lot of the work will be done using Chromebooks, and we have them here at school, and they all know how to use them. They save all of their work to it. They share their work with the teacher. You may not notice as much paper and as much, well, show me what you're doing. Well, they don't have it because they say, oh, well, we've done it using Chromebooks. Then you can say, okay, fine, show me, and get them to do that. Because in some cases, teachers will edit, using the digital file, will send it back, and they will do that. They still build their portfolio, and they will still print things off, but they're using that kind of thing less and less. And those are things that will also be communicated to you by some of those teachers. We have a course management system at the school called Moodle, and your child will each have their own login to access the school intranet, and will have their own email, but they don't really use. This generation doesn't use email an awful lot. They prefer using other means of communication. But they will all have those kinds of access to those kinds of things. A lot of teachers will post material to the Moodle site. And so if they miss or if they want some extra handouts, more and more teachers every year are doing that. They can go to the Moodle site and say, oh, I need this Math 7 handout, and they will be able to print that off. So that course management system is also something that they will find out about and that they will use a fair bit about. We've also really stepped up in terms of electronic portfolios. We're now in year 3 of those. So every student, if they haven't already done one of those, and those from the junior school will build on what they've done, they will develop an electronic portfolio. That's something that's done partially in IT class, but also in other classes. So they will be asked to select things that they are doing that they are proud of, or that maybe show something that they had difficulty with that they managed to persevere with, to post on their portfolio, to post things about their leadership, about their service, about their co-curricular. And we're still in the stages of kind of figuring some of those things out in terms of how much information gets posted, but we want it to be as much as possible owned by the student. At the end of the first and second report cards, the students will be led through a reflection process where they will look at their report card and they will, as part of their e-portfolio, write out some things that they're proud of, write some things that they want to work on, and then write what is their plan to address what their maybe 2 goals are in the next term. So a lot of those reflective things are built into class time because we want them, to become the people that are self-sufficient and are independent. But they of course get guided through all of that. Okay. Is there anything to do with either of those? I think I probably covered 9 and 10 sort of in the same segment there. Yes.
Do kids have access to Wi-Fi?
Yes, absolutely. So the whole school is Wi-Fi. Once they get their user ID and they log on, they have Wi-Fi. And there is what you call a phone that's not, there is a phone, not dial phone, but there is a phone, some of us still have those, some of us, a landline, sorry, there is a landline right across the office from Ms. Davis. So if they need to they need to call you during the day or that, then that's fine. If they have their own phone, they can just say, can I use my phone? Or maybe their teacher will give them permission to do it if it's an emergency or something. But there is a landline phone that they do have access to as well. Boy, times have changed. Lines of communication. So there are a number of people that you can communicate with over the course of the year depending on what the need is. Tag teacher, we've covered that, who's responsible for the overall program of your child. And if you have any questions of a general nature, how is so-and-so settling in, or he seems to be having a little bit of difficulty with this, or he hasn't joined anything, what is there that he could do, or that. So the teacher advisor is sort of that person who is there to have that sort of pastoral overall care of your child. If you have a question around a specific subject, you may have heard something that distresses you, and you may kind of wonder, really? Is that true? May not be entirely true. I know that's a surprise, but it may not be. Email the classroom teacher. All their email addresses are in the middle school parent handbook. Or if it's something that's more urgent than that, you can certainly phone and leave a message with Ms. Davis. Email turnaround time, I think you'll find, is quite responsive. Certainly during the regular week, it should be within a day. It won't necessarily be that minute or that hour, but because that's not reasonable. But you will certainly get a timely response. So the subject teacher is the best person to connect with if you have anything specific to that subject. Talk to the subteacher first, or if your child says, "Hey, you know what? So and so is bugging me, or so and so is giving me a hard time in this class." Contact the subject teacher and just check it out. Or this happened today. It may not have happened in exactly that way. It may have, and then we will fix it. So that's a subject teacher and tag teacher. We of course have a school counselor. We have learning resource staff. All of their contact information is in the middle school parent handbook, and feel free to get in touch with them if you need to. Mrs. Haydock, the assistant director, and I, of course, are there as well. Sometimes depending on the situation, we may first of all refer to somebody else who will have the information to sort of clarify or communicate with you. Sometimes not, depending on the situation. If it's something that's urgent, if it's something that you think we really need to know about, or you really don't think you can contact somebody else first, that's why we are there. You will get a response from me that same day. Unless if you email me at 11 o'clock at night, and then it might not be till the following morning. Doesn't matter where I am because I have access to all of that. And even likely even on weekends if it's something urgent that comes up. So if you're not sure, contact us, and we would rather you do that than kind of worry and not be sure about what to do. Ms. Davis also is somebody that you will get to know very well, and contact her if there's any general information or things that you're kind of wondering about, or I didn't get this information, or what's happening here, Occasionally you may need to get a message to your child. Of course, she's more than willing to do that. It's just tricky when there's 10 or 15 that happen with 10 minutes to go before the end of the day, then may not actually find your child. But certainly, if you need to do that occasionally, she will be happy to help you out. We rarely send any paper home. Even when I was at school, the system didn't work very well. Electronic information is great, and it also is a way that kids know that you'll get information and they can't hide it from you either if it's something they didn't want you to get, right? So a lot of teachers will send emails telling you what's going on. The school, you've already got email communication from myself via Patty or from Patty. That will happen at regular intervals during the school year. Some people say it's too much, some people say it's too little, some people say it's just about right. Just let us know if there is something that is particularly irksome or is a burr under your saddle and about it, and we can see what we can do. But we do try to err on the side of, we'll send you the information, and if you don't want to read it all, then just delete. But you'll find a lot of things will be sent home, a lot of forms or information, outdoor education, pizza days, notices, things like that will be sent home electronically. Some copies are printed off for most things, and there's a slot across from the office where if you're coming into the school, you can check to see if there's anything there that you have missed. But teachers will email you all the information about field trips, all the details about that. And then between that and the online calendar, I think you'll see that there's lots of things online. Formal communication in terms of parent events. There's a few things that happen during the course of the year. So formal opportunities for you to come and be a part of the middle school. In a couple of weeks on September the 17th, and that's on our online web calendar, there'll be a parent information / meet the teacher night. Meet the teacher night. And we'll all send home a reminder about that as we get closer in terms of how that is. That night is primarily an opportunity for you to put a face to teachers' names, to meet your child's teacher, and to sort of hear a little bit about what's going on at the school. There is a general gathering with everybody because there are a few bits and pieces of information that need to be done that way. But the focus is really on you having an opportunity to meet your child's teachers. It's not a parent-teacher evening. It's a meet the teacher evening, and that's a great way for them to mingle and to meet you. Then, of course, we have some official times when we have parent-teacher evenings, and those are in the calendar. So 2 nights in October, towards the end of October, 2 nights in early February. The October one comes right after the interim report card, and the February one will come between the December report and the March report. Ms. Davis will send out information about that, and please come and attend those and meet your child's teachers. Those are just the formal times. There's a lot of other times when parents come in and they just feel like they need to chat with one or more teachers, or they need to come in for other reasons, and please don't hesitate to do that. But those are sort of the formal times. Last 2 things very quickly. So outdoor education, for those of you that are new to our school, we have a very, very comprehensive and rigorous outdoor education program that starts at the junior school and that increases all the way through to grade 11. And then in grade 12, for students that do the outdoor leadership, there's an opportunity to continue that. Your child will be involved in outdoor education. The most significant time is in June, after we finish our final assessments and before our year end. That's really the biggest focus for middle school, is during that time. There may occasionally be some things offered during the year, sometimes more so for grade 8s, but usually but really the end of the year is sort of the big time. So in the calendar that you have, it'll tell you the dates of when the outdoor education trips happen. We really think it's an important component to every child's education. Children need to be outdoors. They need to experience some adversity and new situations in safe surroundings. Many of them shine because they have skills that they've acquired elsewhere. Others, it's their very first experience, and they need to be exposed to those kinds of things. So in grade 6, they go for a 2-night camp, and also they have 1 full day before that when they do different activities. In grade 7, they do a 5-day, 4-night camp, and I think a couple of those nights they sleep outside. The other nights they're in cabins, and that's usually at Camp Thunderbird, and it's a great experience for them. Grade 8 is modeled more on the transition to senior school. So in grade 8, what they do is that they choose from a menu of outdoor education trips, and then they get, based on their preference, they get put into a group, and they go off to that. So they could be rock climbing in Penticton, surfing in Tofino, doing an island sampler of a bunch of different things, or there's a couple of local things as well to pick from. And that just increases as they go through the grades in 9, 10, and 11. So that's a really important part of their year, and especially I think for this age group, it's great for them to be together in those kinds of situations. And again, lots of information will come out to you during the year by email from our outdoor ed people. The final thing I wanted to touch on is our middle school production. So this is something that we do every other year. And so if you are coming into grade 6, it's a bit of a bonus because your child will have the opportunity to be involved in grade 6 and in grade 8. And if you're coming in grade 8 and you happen to hit the production year, this is it. How do I describe this? I've been in a lot of places. I mean, this is my closer to 40 years in education. And our middle school production, when it's done right, is absolutely amazing. For this age of students to have this opportunity is really quite extraordinary. So what we do is that we put on a major musical production every 2 years. The dates are in the calendar. I believe this year it's March 5th to 7th at the McPherson Theatre, 3 shows. It's The Wizard of Oz. 2 years ago we did Annie. And every student who wants to take part is guaranteed to take part in this production. They don't all have to be on stage. They can be behind the scenes if they want to. They don't have to be involved, but I'd say about 90 to 95% of our students get involved in some way or the other. Some are more comfortable with a smaller role because of their commitments outside of school or other things. For some, this is their passion, and they want those lead roles, or they want to play a major part. So we've got just about every teacher at the middle school involved in it to various degrees. This year's director is the choir teacher who was also at the junior school, Duncan Frater. He has never directed middle school production before, but he has lots of experience directing the junior school opera for many years, as well as other things. But this is if you're from the junior school, this is a whole different kettle of fish, because this is so many more students in a full-run musical, and it is absolutely amazing when it all comes together. So we will begin auditions very early in the fall. Because our students are so busy and they're involved in so many things, we need to get started early. A lot of communication will come home around that. They may not get the part that they want. There's only one Dorothy, apparently. But they will be guaranteed to be involved, and we do things like write in extra roles for kids. If there's a dance scene, we have more dancers than probably you've ever seen before. And at the end, you've got 150, 60 kids on stage, and it's just one of those things that I think we do really, really well. So please encourage your child to come out and take part. Sometimes, especially in grade 6, they may be a little bit nervous about doing it, but there's lots of opportunities for kids to be involved. Sometimes for some of the students, it does mean that they need to be careful of what their other commitments are. Yes, they can be involved, but if they want to be involved at a significant level, it may mean that they can't do everything else because they are going to need to have more of a commitment. There are, leading up to the March production dates, there are weekend rehearsals. You'll have, half the staff here on a Sunday for like 6 hours, because that's just what they do. When we're at the theater doing this, and we have kids holding all over the place, because of course we can't put them all backstage, it's too small. We've got staff all over the place making sure that they're looked after and shuttling them back and forth and doing sets and everything else. So it really is quite a team accomplishment. And at this age, for these students, so many of them just shine and get a chance to experience something that they didn't really know they had inside of them. So it's something that I think we do very, very well. So we're looking forward to getting that started. We do use some exploratory time. There are after-school rehearsals. There have to be, just due to the scope of the production. And sometimes there have to be decisions that are made. But if they want to play this sport and do the production, we tend to be pretty good about making sure that the adults make those decisions and help the kids out so the kid doesn't feel caught. But as we get closer to the end, then we will say, this is where you need to be. So, but it is quite something. All right. So, like I said, there'll be lots more information about that. But please know that it is something that will be happening, and it's just another piece to the arts education. All right. I haven't covered the other things like the athletics and the sports and all of that. This is being updated, our activities and leadership guide. Last year's is on the website, and you'll find it'll be much the same, but there will be a few things that will be different, and your child will also see this and get a copy of it. And so there's lots of things there. And when we have our assemblies, we talk about all these things. We have announcements. We make sure the kids know what's happening. And behind the scenes, something I think we also do quite well is that we will tap kids on the shoulders and say, hey, you know what, you haven't done anything this year. How about, if you try something, even if you've never done it before. But they also, need to have some initiative as well and seek out some of those opportunities, and you'll get a chance to hopefully see all those things that they do. All right. Wow. I guess you'd be thankful you didn't get the long version, right? And that you didn't leave before I was finished. Are there any questions? We are here to make sure that if there's anything that you need to know about, that you ask us, please. And if you ask a question and we will direct it to the person if we're not the one to answer it. We are thrilled that your child is going to be entering the middle school. We hope that we'll get a chance to get to know you better as they get started, or reacquaint ourselves if you've previously been at the middle school, and just let me know if you have any questions. Okay? Thank you very much for coming out tonight. And if you have any suggestions, please let me know. I've never done this before at this stage of the year. I didn't realize I was so over time, but if you can tell me what to cut out, then I'd be more than happy to. And grab a cookie on your way out, because otherwise they're all going to go to waste. Thank you. Thank you.